think the problem that people don't get as good steaks at home as they get in the steakhouses, it starts with the quality of the meat they buy in the supermarkets. Because I think supermarkets, they don't sell you, they sell you the meat too fresh, not aged enough, and not necessarily well marbled steaks. When you look for a steak, obviously there is what you generally call the prime cuts, and they come from basically the ribs. They can be a prime rib or the ribeye, that's this one here. Basically that's the prime rib of the bone. And then there is the less prime cuts. That's other cuts, they are less expensive, but they are still, they can be very tasty. Here is what you can see, what is the ultimate prime steak. This is American Wagyu beef. As you can see, is very marble. You can see mostly fat.
Right.
If you compare to this, to this steak, you can see the difference. So the more marbling, the more white specks that's in between the pieces of meat, the more marble, the more close to prime it is. And usually the more tastier and the more rich the meat is. What's happening is with the aging process, even a good choice steak, when it's properly dry aged, you don't feel as much the difference between prime and choice. The wet age, basically, any cut of beef is cryovac and is left on this cryovac for 4 weeks, or 5 weeks, or 3 weeks, depending how much you want to age. So this is called wet age because all the blood and all the water that is drawn from the cut of beef stays inside the package. What you accomplish with this is tenderize and the concentration of flavor. And the meat is all exposed to the air, and he loses about 30% of his weight, and he becomes a much more stronger, much more gamier taste. For me and most so-called steak lovers, that's the real thing. That's the real deal. A steak, a special steak like this, should be cooked either rare, medium rare. Not really past medium rare. I think because one thing that is important to understand, the more you cook the meat, the tougher it gets. So if you order this steak well done, it's going to feel much tougher if you order medium rare, because the meat tends to get tougher unless you really braise it to a different point. That's a different story. Once you have a good piece of beef, all you need to do is salt and a little bit of pepper. That's about it. So once you get this, you don't need too much. You're just drizzling a little bit of oil so it does not stick too much to the grill. And voila.